Welcome, everybody, to Astrology Unplugged. My name is Rick DiClemente. Good to have you with us. And we're going to get into several different things tonight, including a reading of our newcomer, Varushka, later on in the chart. We'll go about an hour, hour and a half, and then tonight I'll put this up on YouTube as episode 201. Um, First thing I wanted to do is start you with the schedule because a lot of things are happening. And let me get you there. Here's what's happening with the holidays. Okay. And this is on my Facebook. And if you don't get my emails every week, my notifications, then go to my website, starself.com, and sign up for the newsletter. And you'll get notified every Tuesday as to what's coming up on Thursday. So this is tonight. Next week, we'll have the Reverend Gregory King, the medium from Lilydale. This is about his sixth appearance. He's on every 6 months. I'll be back for the week of the 17th. Then I get a long vacation because we're going to skip Christmas Eve and we're going to skip New Year's Eve. I'll be back on January 7th. And then my wonderful new friend, Ksenia Moore, who's a fabulous astrologer out of southern Australia. She's going to be on my show, and I was just on hers, and she's really good. She's got a really big following on YouTube. She's very upbeat. So I asked her if she would do the upbeat moments of 2021, because when I'm looking at it, I don't see a lot of upbeat moments. I see it very similar to 2020. So she got a real upbeat personality, and she'll be talking to us then. Now, beside that, this Saturday, I will appear for my second time on Ellen Grimes' radio show out of Seattle, Grimes. And her show is called Jupiter Rising. She's an astrologer, and I think her friend is too, her and a young man. The show is called Jupiter Rising. I'm on for the second time discussing Jupiter and Saturn going into Aquarius in a few weeks. And to get to that, that's on my website or it's on my Facebook wall. But you need to just go to 1150. The link is 1150 KKNW. Must be the radio station. 1150 KKNW.com. It's 2 o'clock on Saturday, Eastern Time. Okay? And you'll hear the 1 hour audio show over the internet. There's no video, it's audio only. We'll be talking about Jupiter and Saturn going into Aquarius, which means they're coming out of Capricorn. And all these planets are coming out and they're going to leave just old Pluto by itself in Capricorn, which is how this whole thing started. Okay, now what I wanted to get into tonight, as you know, I do a lot of readings I do a lot of chart following on murderers, serial killers. I do a lot of chart following on saints and preachers. I follow all kind of people. But I especially have a thing about watching serial killers and murderers because I like to know what makes their chart like it is and what makes them trigger when they do. If you can find their birthday, it's a really good education. So I was interested because last night I ran into a woman I'm sure you've heard of called Andrea Yates. And she's a woman about 20 years ago, really nice religious woman. She went off the end of the deep rocker and she killed all 5 of her children. And she actually was arrested and tried and found life in prison. And they actually tried her again, and it was really real. They found her to be innocent by reason of insanity, which she really was. But it's a fascinating chart. And the reason I'm bringing it up tonight, I want to show you some of the themes in this chart that I've been showing you. See, if repetition's how you learn. Okay. Now, Varushka had to stay in there with me. I've been doing it 42 years, and you've been doing it about 4 months. So you just keep at it. And it's how you learn, chart after chart. Here's the chart. Here's the chart of Andrea Yates. Now, I watched an hour episode about her last night. Let me get it on your screen. I want you to look very closely. I want you to listen to me, because if you do, you'll start to really learn. Okay? Learning astrology is done by applying yourself. What I do is I lift up the glass on the pinball machine, your pinball machine. I lift up the glass and I crawl inside and I look around where the bumpers are, where the holes are, where the walls are, where the wires are. That's how I see a chart. And I go in and I move around. Go, ooh, wow, look at this. Ooh. That's how I learn. Everybody's got their different method. You got a Cancer woman. She was very small, raised in a very big family. She had a lot of kids. She had five kids. She killed them all. She drowned them all in a bathtub. Um, she had been thrown in. She had been in and out of mental institutions. She had been in and out of suicidal attempts. But what happened to her? You can see that she's got Venus in Gemini, Mars in Gemini, Sun in Aries, Moon in Aries, Mercury in Cancer. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of her personal planets, all 5 of her personal planets are within Cancer or to the beginning of the zodiac. Now, what happened to this lady? She wanted to have a whole lot of kids. She had a very nice husband, and she had these 5 adorable little kids. And what happened to her? She got messed up with a really bad, crazy evangelist who put the fire and brimstone and fear of God into her. And somehow she got it twisted through her twisted mind. You'll see it in the chart. She got it in her mind that if these kids weren't killed before they were 10, they were going to go to hell. This is what she believed. She was very naive. She was very impressionable. And I'm going to show you how it shows up in the chart. This is not going to happen to somebody with a bunch of Aquarius or a bunch of Pisces or a bunch of Capricorn. But early signs of the zodiac, if there's too much of it, the early signs can't handle the outer energies. They just can't handle it. The outer energies come in the inner cycle, the inner 5 personal planets can't deal with them properly. But let's look a little deeper. This is really, really telling. And I want you, Susan, I want you with double eyeglasses on, looking real closely, because you're going to learn a lot from this. Now watch and see. I learned a lot from it. Okay, you got the Sun and Mercury in Cancer. We don't have a birth time, so we put it in them. We got a Venus and Mars in Gemini, and usually Venus and Mars are together, but these are really not. They're 11 degrees apart. Venus and Mars together are strong symbols of narcissism. In her case, she wasn't narcissistic. Even the Jupiter's in an early sign. It's in Taurus. Moon is in Aries. Eris is in Aries. Okay, the Saturn's in Pisces. Now here's that 1965 conjunction. You can see it's forming 1964. The Uranus and Pluto is forming. They're going to conjunct in October 65. This is the core of the 1960s. This is what somebody just came in the, let me see who just came in the room. A Deman. Okay. All right. All right. Now, the Uranus and Pluto of the 60s, which was very, very common to find a lot of people nowadays that have Uranus and Pluto. They were born mid-60s. They were opposite Saturn, and a lot of them opposite Eris. I'm sorry, Chiron. A lot of people I've done charts for have Uranus and Pluto opposite Saturn and Eris. Okay, no. Chiron. Ever since I've added Eris, I keep getting them mixed up. This is somebody who's potentially very explosive, but they're keeping a lid on it with that Saturn. But that Saturn's in Pisces. It's not a real strong Saturn. Okay? But the main thing in this chart is what I've been telling you week after week. Jupiter opposite Neptune. What I've been telling you. Jupiter opposite Neptune. I've been telling you when the conjunction, they usually have a very strong draw towards spirit and sometimes delusional. When the Jupiter squares Saturn, when the Jupiter squares Neptune or Jupiter's opposite, like here, you have a tendency of what we're going through now, following a cult leader like lemmings into the sea. That's what's causing all this. I called this in 2015. I warned everybody that this cult was going to dangle itself in front of us, and a lot of people were going to go for it and follow this fake leader. So when you have Jupiter opposite Neptune, take a look. You got 5 other planets in personal planets in the early signs. Now you got 2 planets that are heavily diluted. What else you got? So what happened to her? She was extremely religious and she killed her kids because she loved her kids and she didn't want them to go to hell. She was real mixed up. She tried suicide many times, pills, cutting herself, hospitalized many times. But here's the real interesting thing about what she did, astrologically speaking. Watch this. When you see somebody go nuts and kill 5 of your own kids, and she planned it, and she did it during the hour when her husband was out of the house, she was left alone with the kids. She did it all within 1 hour or less. You have to ask yourself, what is it? Pluto? The devil comes out of you and you kill him? What is it? Is it Neptune and you're deluded? What is it? Uranus and you're just crazy? You have to try to find out what's the energy that's spiraling inside of you. Notice one thing, bucket pattern, great big bucket to the planet Neptune. This is the big planet in the chart. Neptune in Scorpio. That's a symbol of, by God, I'm devoted to you. This is heavenly devotion. It might even be overly devoted to God. But like I say, she got real messed up with this local evangelist who was crazy, and she listened to his tapes, and they sold her house and they moved into a Winnebago to be next to his Winnebago, and they started buying all this Old Testament junk, and it poisoned her brain. But the interesting thing is, when she killed the kids, she killed them during a Saturn transit. And it makes total sense. See, you got to get out of the thinking, killed your kids, it must be Pluto. It's wild, it must be Uranus. No, it wasn't those planets at all. Had to be Neptune, she was deluded. No, it was Saturn. Because what does Saturn do? What do I keep telling you? 2 words. There are 2 words for Saturn and Capricorn. Saturn and Capricorn are always doing one thing. That's 2 words. Making sure. So she was making sure that these kids didn't go to hell. And she had it in her mind, if she let them go their way, they were all under, I think, 8 years old. They were going to end up in hell. So that was her way of making sure. Sure, she felt devastated and all that. And she's in prison. She's in a mental hospital for life. Saturn was right here. June 21st, June 20th, 2001. Saturn was right here, right opposite Mars. Right opposite that point. I cannot tell you how sensitive points are in a T-square. Here's the T-square. 2 planets here, 1 planet here, 1 planet here. The most sensitive part of a T-square is this point. The next sensitive part is the point opposite, which is called the wake, like the wake of a ship. Oh, beside that, these points on the edges, they're also sensitive. But what did you have here? You had Saturn in Pisces, which is all about doing the Lord's will, opposite Uranus Pluto, which was the generational wild energies of the 60s. And these planets went back and forth. And believe me, I got so many clients with this that it manifests in many different ways. But what happened with her? It all went through Mars and Gemini. This is the United States problem, Mars and Gemini. But all this energy went to Mars and Gemini. So what you have in effect is this explosive planet. This Mars and Gemini is huge. And Mars and Gemini, Gemini is one of the signs that just loses control. It doesn't have control. Sagittarius is another. Pisces is probably the third. Those three signs don't have, in general, they don't have self-control. Gemini, Sag especially, Pisces. So all this stern energy got wrapped up and expressed itself through that Mars. Now notice how in this solar chart, even though we're using noon as a birthday, this Mars still comes out in the 9th house of philosophy. And when Saturn got to here, Saturn was about 8 or 9, doesn't have to be exact. Saturn triggered that Mars, and she'd been planning it for 2 years. She'd been planning it as Mars was creeping up, and she was feeling the Mars because what was Saturn doing as it was making tenser and tighter angles in that chart? She kept saying, I've got a real problem. I can't talk about this, but I know what I got to do because I got to get rid of these kids. I don't want them going to hell. So she did it. But it's an interesting chart because of the planets that were involved. It requires that you think on a larger scale. And look here also. Look at this grand trine. Neptune over to Chiron in Pisces. This is extremely religious. Neptune in Scorpio with Chiron in Pisces. This is serving God, whatever you ask me. And the T square goes to where? To the sun and to Mercury. So her mind was in her mind. She was hearing voices from Satan. She was hearing voices from God telling her what to do. That's what she thought. I mean, you looked at this woman. I mean, she looked like staring into space. A very sad story. But anyhow, I'm certainly not condoning what she did. This is merely an astrological lesson. But it's intriguing to see the Gemini planets lose control. That Saturn triggered the whole chart. That the heavyweight Saturn, Pluto, Uranus didn't know what to do with the energy, so it expressed it all through Mars and Gemini. And the Mars and Gemini couldn't handle it. He just couldn't handle it. He couldn't understand it. Does this make any sense to any of you? All right. From one nut, we'll go to another, and his name's Donald Trump. Let me show you this one. There's an eclipse a couple days ago. People were calling it a full moon. It was just a partial lunar eclipse. In case you don't know this, eclipses and full moons are called lunations. I've got articles on this. I've got videos on this. I've got Astrology Unplugged on this. Full moons, new moons, all that, they're called lunations. Now, every month you get at least a full moon. Okay, Marcia, you sign off and take care of yourself. We'll see you later. You people tuning in on YouTube, we're actually typing messages to each other when we're live, and you can't see them only when you're live. If you do want to join us live any Thursday night, just go to Google and type in Astrology Unplugged. It will get you the link to get you here. We got a 100 seat minimum, 100 seat maximum, and we're at 8 o'clock on Thursday nights Eastern time. Okay. Now, each month there's always a full moon and a new moon. All eclipses are either full moons or new moons, but they're tighter. A lunar eclipse is a full moon where the planets aren't up and down like this, they're actually lined up flat. A solar eclipse is a new moon, but they're not like this, they're actually lined up together. That's why you always see them close to the horizon when they happen. So, the eclipse was at 8 degrees Gemini a couple of days ago, and it triggered some stuff. But Mr. Trump's in trouble, and I'll tell you why. And he would be in real trouble, but he's got luck following him. This guy has more lives than a barrel full of cats. He just got unbelievable how the planets protect this guy. Watch and see this. All right. All right, here's Trump's chart. Now, Trump right now has Neptune sitting at 1819 right here. Let me get that exactly right. Neptune is at 19. It's been a 2021. It's making a right angle to his sun and to his moon. This is an eclipse. He was born during a lunar eclipse. You can see 22 and 21. So 2 hours. He was born 2 hours before the eclipse was exact. Because the moon moves 1 degree every 2 hours. So 2 hours later, this would have been around 23, right opposite his sun at 22:53. So right now, Neptune's going back and forth, hitting his main two planets. And this is why we're having all the lies, all the deceit, and it's why we're being inundated with a virus. Things are so uncertain. These are all Neptune principles. Okay? I want to talk to you real clearly about this. Neptune did not come into his life to screw us up. Whatever happens to his chart happens to us, because whatever happens to the head happens to the body. Things are so dire because he did not heed what Neptune's saying. Things are not dire because he didn't listen to Neptune. Things are dire because he didn't listen to his own Neptune. That's how this works. The planets are parts of you. We're all interconnected. What does it mean when you're real Neptunian? When you're real Neptunian and you listen to it, then you come out and you act like the Dalai Lama. That's what a Neptune person's like. George Harrison. Very peaceful, very loving. You never think of yourself. Very spiritual. That's what a Neptune person's like. The opposite, when you try to BS everybody and smoke and mirrors, is you lie, deceive. And that's why Neptune hitting his sun and moon, it's echoing to all of us now. Now, here's the real thing. You probably thought of this. The problem is not Mr. Trump. The problem is the rest of us. He's just the avatar of the moment. He's delivering the message. How many people have just stood by and let this guy do all this stuff? Here's the one I can't get. Now I'm gonna get high on a soapbox on this one. Here's the one thing I can't get. Not the kids in the cages. This is the one thing I can't get. How come these poor nurses and doctors and hospital workers have been crying and screaming and dying? And some of them wearing the same outfits for 4 months, the same mask for 4 weeks. They've been screaming for PPE, and he has the ability to just say check mark and make all the factories go out there and start producing all the PPE. Government pays for it, and then all these hospitals are staffed. And he didn't do it. You explain that one to me. That one's inexcusable. The people in hospitals have died because he has not done that. Now, the reason why is his Venus Saturn in his chart, and he's going down. If he's going down, the rest of it, we're all going down with him. That's how he feels. Now, when Neptune gets involved, I had a ex-wife, a former wife, and every time an eclipse came up, because we studied astrology together, every time an eclipse came up, she'd say, "What's it mean? What's it mean?" And I studied and studied and studied for years. And eclipses are very difficult to figure out. Here's what I know about an eclipse. It's going to happen at a certain point. It's going to happen at a particular part of the zodiac. So the one we got coming up is going to be December 14th. 11 days from now. You already see the trouble starting. Eclipses, the essence of the eclipse, the trouble from the eclipse almost always starts 10 days before it forms. 5 days after. 10 days before, 5 days after. Here we are 11 days before the 14th. And on the 14th, the sun and moon will be here at 23 degrees. The sun and moon will both be in Sagittarius at 23 degrees of Sag, pretty close to this 21-degree moon, and pretty close to hitting his sun, which might as well call this 23. So when an eclipse hits you, let me show it to you, then you'll understand it visually a little better, because I'm not in a hurry. I'd rather you see how this is going to form. And I have to paint the screen twice so you'll see it, and then you'll understand it. Here are his planets. I'm sorry, I got Andrea Yates. Too many buttons to push. Okay, here he is. Andrea Yates, I don't think we're worried about her. She's going to have trouble no matter what. Let me get this done right here. Dynamic bi-wheel. Stop share, start share. Okay, here's Trump's chart. In the middle of this chart is his fixed birth chart. It never changes. Here's the sun in Gemini, the moon in Sag. These are where the planets are right now, at this very second. So you can see that the sun is going to have to close through the next 14 days, and the moon, which just had a new moon at 8, the moon's got to come all the way around here to form a solar eclipse. This is a full solar eclipse, only visible in the southern hemisphere. So if you watch the moon come around, 2.5 days, 2.5 days, 2.5 days, watch the moon come. I'm going through the days here. December 7th, here comes the moon. December 12th, 13th, 14th. Okay, now I'm going to move it back by hours. I'm moving back from 28 to 23. Okay, right around there. See, they're both at 23. Okay, that eclipse is December 14th, about 11:30 in the morning. That will be a Monday. That eclipse will be at 23. This is 21. This is 23. That eclipse is going to be major. Okay? Now, Neptune's sitting over here at 18. If Neptune were here at 23 and the eclipse were hitting Neptune, look out. Look out. Because when an eclipse hits Neptune, you're going to have your dirty laundry aired out for everybody to see, and it will be true. Period. especially love affairs, that kind of dirt, paying off prostitutes, that kind of stuff, you're nailed. That's it. You wouldn't believe uh, how many politicians' career ended when the full moon or new moon hit their Neptune. Because what it does is they shine the light in your closet. Oh, look. And it's showing what's there. Now, the fact that the new moon, the solar eclipse, is going to be on his moon and opposite his natal sun is so intense. Even though Neptune's off to the side, he's in big trouble. He's in big, big trouble. And this means it's the light of day. What do they say about lies? When that lie comes to the light of day, then you are seen for who you are. So anyhow, I don't know what will happen, but he's in a lot of trouble. It's hitting his moon. It's not hitting Neptune because Neptune's at 18. But it's going to stay with him. It's going to stay with him through the whole next several years. So it's a very nasty eclipse. Now, see how astrology is fair? If he had been picking up the signal, if he had in the last 4 or 5 years been trying to do what's right, lovingly bringing people together, lovingly bringing the folks together, helping people who are sick, doing all the things that Christ talked about. Neptune's the Christ planet. Then this full moon would probably put him up for Nobel. We got the opposite. Okay. So that 14th. So what you want to look for is anytime there's a full moon, anytime there's a new moon, full moon, new moon, lunar eclipse, solar eclipse, there's 4. If it hits somebody's Neptune, if it's close to that Neptune, watch for their clothesline. Watch and see what they're hanging on their clothesline. And there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing. It's too late. See, Neptune, what Neptune does is very fair. Neptune strips you naked so that God, this is one way of putting it, strips you naked so that God can see you as you are. And God doesn't judge you. That's a human concept. But God shows you who you are so that you can get an honest appraisal and start working from where you really are. Because we're all going back home. You understand? All right. So he's in a lot of trouble, besides all this other stuff that's going on. And the moon is his family. Timry, where are you? You're hiding here somewhere. There you are, dear. I had to ask you to unmute. Yes.
So it will be hitting my Neptune. Mine is at 21 degrees,
Of Sag?
and it's of Sag. And I don't have anything to
Yeah,
expose.
don't
I'm
worry about
doing
it.
work.
Honey, I've
I'm
had
not
it.
Trump.
Don't worry about it. I've had it hit my I've had it hit my Neptune many times through life. If you're clean, you got nothing to hide, don't worry about it.
Okay.
On the flip side is you during these lunations,
Mm-hmm.
you get really clear in your mind. You ever go to bed one night and all of a sudden you're just right
Absolutely.
there? That's
Absolutely.
that's when these lunations hit. And God's trying to show you something. I
Okay.
hate to use these words, but that's what's happening. You're getting lucid, you're seeing a section of your life real clearly.
Got it.
Now I've had my Neptune get hit, and I've had a couple small problems and mostly good stuff. Now my other answer I was telling you about my ex-wife, she would say, "What do you know about this eclipse?" One thing I've learned: almost all eclipses start out bad. Most eclipses knock us off center and something kind of untoward happens to us. But it doesn't last long, and most of us right the ship rather quickly. hold on, please. That's what I have found with eclipses. What people don't take into account, the reason it's hard to understand them, you got to understand what sign is the eclipse in. That's the type of energy it'll be. Number two, is it hitting another planet? Beside the sun and moon, is Mars in there with it? Is Jupiter there? Is it squaring Pluto? The eclipses don't just hang out in the sky by the two of them. If other planets are involved, then that really complicates it. And finally, what's it hitting in your chart?
No, it's hitting my my sun. It squares my sun and my Mercury. So.
Okay, now I don't have the time to go into your details.
Oh yeah, it's okay. I don't want
tell
you to. I'm just.
something. I want to tell you something. Starting tomorrow, it's about 10 days away.
Mhm.
Going to start to grow. This light, this flashlight, going to be opened up and opened up for 10 days, and you're going to start growing in your spiritual awareness. This is a woman who's going to be using her Neptune transit properly.
Right.
Are the ones that try smoke and mirrors, try
Okay.
bullshit people. Those are the ones.
All right.
Okay? So
Got it. Got you. Thank you.
you're very welcome. Yes, Susan, unmute yourself.
Not to go too much into my chart, but just it's hitting my sun directly and opposing my moon.
Okay, so you have the opposite of Trump.
Right.
Now, Neptune is shining on your sun. Well, then it's going to be very much what I just told
Well,
you.
the eclipse. The eclipse is hitting my.
It's just hitting your sun. It's the reverse of Trump.
Okay.
Trump is a sun in Gemini, moon in Sag. You're
Right.
the reverse. Okay?
Right.
So it's not hitting your moon, which is why his is going to be more about his family, and your sun, because his moon's being hit, and yours is about the sun. It's going to be very similar to what I just taught Timron. You're going to, I mean, you're already a medium. You're already dealing with the spiritual world. You're going to possibly have some little problem happen. I don't think that we can get away from the little stuff, but it's not going to be a big deal. Mostly it's going to be a big spiritual awareness. And usually what happens during these times is you come out of these times real aware and real clear, and you dedicate yourself to a new spiritual discipline. That's usually what happens.
Thank you.
You don't have to worry about it. Okay. If you're a crook, then you got to worry about it. Okay. Now we're going to move on to our Varushka, who's new to us tonight. Thank you, Susan. Varushka comes to us tonight new from North Carolina. Like I said to all you folks on YouTube, if you want to sit in live any Thursday night, go to Google, put in Astrology Unplugged. That'll take you to my website, which will give you the link to here. Thursday nights at 8 o'clock, it's free. Okay? All right. Now, what have we found? Our group's been together for quite a while here. We're in our 4th year. We have found over the past 6 months, a lot of people have come to us and been our guinea pig, like Timry was. And we find that they come to us on the night when they're really ready for something. Now, I'm going to tell you right now what this means, Varushka. All right? Something, I haven't looked at your chart. I got your chart done. We just had an eclipse. We just had a lunar eclipse in the sign of Gemini. Why? Because the sun was about 8 degrees of Sag, and the moon was over there about 8 degrees of Gemini. So something has been hit in your chart that's bringing you forth. Okay, secondly, the eclipse that's coming is a Sagittarian eclipse. Okay? You got to remember what sign it's in. When these people go, oh, the full moon's out tonight. That's not the story. What sign is it in? What's it hitting? Is it lined up with another planet? That's why you go somewhere in a full moon and nothing happens except the sky's pretty. And then you go to another full moon, it's like all hell breaks loose because it's lined up with Uranus. But, it's not easy for a beginner. Now, You are ready from something new, which is why you're here. We're going to shine the light on your chart, which means certain parts of you are going to be exposed. I won't get embarrassing, so don't worry about that. But certain parts of you are going to become clear to you because you're ready to see them.
Okay.
And you have not been ready till now. Okay? So let's take a look at your chart. All right. This is not the chart. And we'll get rid of that. And I'll put my glasses on. Boy, charts look a lot clearer then. Okay, here's your chart. By way of South Africa, living in North Carolina, Verushka, it is a German name, has 12 degrees of Aquarius rising. Let's take it slow. Sun and moon are both in Gemini. Okay. And they're both opposite Neptune. Oh, okay. Let's zoom in. 25 degrees, 29 degrees, 18 degrees. This is 19 degrees. This is 6 degrees away. This is 4 degrees away. So your Neptune is pretty close to the midpoint. All right. Now we're not going to go any further than that for a moment. All right. So you got the sun and moon together. Luckily, they're not too close. I did not look. I can look. I don't know if you were born during a solar eclipse or not. But you were definitely born as a new moon was forming. The new moon, the sun and moon come together. Okay.
I believe that I was born a day before the eclipse or very close to it.
Well, you're about 10 degrees, so that's 20 hours.
Okay.
Let's find out for sure. You're 11 degrees, that's 22 hours away. So you're one day before this thing formed. And to find out whether it's an eclipse in 1982, we go to this part of the software. And we ask the eclipse generator. What did I say? What year?
1982.
And we asked it to show us all eclipses during the year 1982, and we ask it to search, and we see that there was an eclipse. When was your birthday?
June 20th.
Yeah. So the eclipse was a partial solar eclipse. Okay. At 21 degrees. Partial solar eclipse. All right. So you were born as the eclipse was forming, similar to Trump, but Trump's was closer. All right, now. So what I want to get at here, here's your sun and moon. I want to get at this. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So here's your sun and moon, and here's Neptune. That is so big, we're going to spend a good bit of time on that right away. Okay. A typical sun and moon in Gemini, they use the word interesting in every other sentence. Oh, it's interesting. Oh, it's interesting. Oh, it's interesting. Because that's what Gemini's here to do. They're supposed to find out things that are interesting, get enamored with it, file it away, and share it with everybody. Tell everybody about it. That's what they do. Never tell a secret to a Gemini. Don't do it. Never tell a secret to a Libra, Linda. Don't do it. Now, Linda might be different because she got Pluto rising.
I'm also different, but I do find everything interesting.
That's typical Gemini. Now, the difficulty when you first see a Gemini is you got to ask yourself, is this person real shallow? Because a lot of Geminis are. and they're just shallow and they're fun loving, and girls just want to have fun. Cyndi Lauper's a Gemini and all that, but you got Neptune opposite, so that does away with that. Neptune makes you very deep and very spiritual, because Neptune to a typical Gemini, oh, isn't that neat? Look at it's out there. But when you have Neptune opposite Sun and Moon, you have a very strong influx of major Pisces energy. So you are big time Pisces, which gives you outer planets and inner planets. So it sets you up for the possibility of being pretty well balanced. So you don't want to be all inner planets. And if you're all outer planets, all you can do is speak Vulcan and nobody can understand you. It's just the way it is. So when you have a blend of lots of things, that's kind of the best of all worlds. So let's take a look. From what I'm telling you right now, is your Sun and Moon is opposite Neptune. Now, when we examine the zodiac, this is very much a Rick thing. When we examine anything, if we want to put it under the microscope, we put it on the ascendant. That's right here. See, that's your left-hand side. That's my right-hand side. So if we put your Sun and Moon here, I don't care what time you're born, we're going to do it anyway. We know we got a birth time, but we're still going to look at your Sun and Moon. What's over here? Neptune. What does that mean? That means that you have a Gemini nature in all your relationships, because oppositions have to do with relationships. First house, seventh house, first house, seventh house. So what do we know? You really like being involved with people that you can talk to. You really want to get involved with somebody that's interesting. Okay. But the Neptune over there muddies the water, and you have a real hard time picking out somebody who's really good for you. The Neptune is very common that you see the best in everybody, and all your girlfriends are saying, not this guy, not this guy. And you bring this guy home and you're telling everybody, oh, he's great. He's going to write to me from prison every day. Don't worry. I'm just kidding you. But it can be really hard to see the relationship clearly for what it is, because Neptune is all about no boundaries. So I see what he's like and I see what he's like, but I just throw it all away because I look inside. No, he's lovable inside. I know he's got these big muscles and he beats up people all weekend. But he's just a teddy bear. See, that's what happens when you got Sun and Moon and Gemini opposite Neptune. On the good side is you tend to take things lightly and you tend to lean towards the shallow, but then all of a sudden you get much deeper and you can see the deeper, refined God layer inside of things, which can be really good. Okay? Now we need to go much further now, because I don't want to go much farther than 3 little planets drawn in pencil, because we got to see what else the chart's doing, especially with a birth time. Okay. So we got the Sun and Moon opposite Neptune. We got Uranus at 1, come across Mercury at 8. This is a chart of brilliance. This is a very, very fast mind. This is someone who has a real hard time keeping her mind quiet. Real difficult. But this is potential brilliance. But like my son has Mercury trine to Uranus. His brilliance just flows to him. It's just unbelievable. He's genius. Your genius comes to you, but it's off and on. It flickers on and off. You get genius, then all of a sudden you're wrong. Then you get genius, then you're wrong. That's just with the nature of an opposition. So you have to learn to be very careful when you're analyzing these big sparks of intuition that Uranus send to you. Like I'm born with Sun opposite Uranus, so it's always boom, 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 firing its gun at me, and I have to learn how to filter it. Now that's a big deal. That one's not. That one is. That's not. So you have these tendencies. you're not only getting Neptune feeding your sun and moon, but you got Uranus feeding your Mercury, which is your mind. So we're starting to see a picture. We're going to go into your past lives. We're starting to see a picture that through your lives, and I know what the past life is going to show us already, you've been through many past lives, you have been interested, kind of like a librarian. You were the librarian of the tribe, or you were the sorcerer for the tribe. You were the information gatherer for the tribe. You know how tribes would pass their stories down? It was a
Yes.
real big deal before the printing press. Well, you had that ability for a long time, but it shows me that in the past several lifetimes, you started to pick up spiritual ability, you started to pick up scientific ability, beliefs beyond this normal plane. And I think even in the last lifetime, with that Uranus placement, you were probably way ahead of yourself. And people probably said, "What's with her?" And they were probably wrong. You were probably just way ahead of yourself. That's my hunch so far. Making sense to you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, hold on. We're going to dig deeper. Now, look in this ninth house of philosophy. Mars, Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter. Opposite Eris. The new Eris. The new Eris is right opposite Saturn. Okay, now I'm going to tell you something about this. Is interesting. Remember, Eris is the new planet. It's been with us since 06. She is the radical woman that has to do with the rising of the divine feminine, but she's opposite Saturn. She ain't opposite Saturn by 4 or 5 degrees. She's opposite Saturn by 3 minutes. 15:30 and 15:30. I'm sorry, no glasses. 9 minutes. This tells me that some male figure, some authority figure, tried to stop your education and came close to doing it because it's so close. And not only did he try to stop your education, but he was really anti-feminine. He didn't want you to become a feminist, or that's what his belief system, he tried to give you that dogma. Does that make sense? What happened?
Um, so I don't think it's maybe one specific person. I can think of two people in my life. One was someone who I was dating, and he was a bit insecure that I had more degrees than he did and qualifications, and that was a big issue in our relationship. He would have preferred it if I stopped studying, and I did
Okay.
at the time.
All right, now we're going to get into that because that's fascinating.
And I think with my dad, there definitely was that antagonism about me being an independent, free-thinking woman, and him wanting me or wanting for me to fit into more of a traditional mold.
Go in the kitchen, yeah.
And I just never did.
Okay, now this is perfect. This is a perfect chart to show everybody. And we're not close to what the purpose of tonight's reading is, but we got a half an hour yet. All right, now listen. If the Saturn were not really close to opposition to that Eris, then I wouldn't be bringing this up. I'd say, maybe check it out. But when it gets close like that, there's a problem. Okay? Now, usually what happens with Saturn, that the old books get wrong and the new books get right. The most successful people in the world are people that have a dramatic mess with Saturn. They just do. And the reason why is Saturn makes everything such a pain in the A. It makes everything such a pain. You have to work so hard that you end up developing all the skills to get past it. That's why Saturn square Sun is one of the most successful aspects you'll see in a birth chart. And the old books will say, oh, he's got no creativity and he really can't speak for himself. And oh, he just has limited possibilities. I mean, I've seen so many tremendous physicists, mathematicians that have Saturn square Sun. So be very careful. Take a lot of salt with you when you read these old books, okay? Even read my book. Take salt with you. Put salt on it. Okay, now, we got a lot to talk about. This is really interesting. Now, no matter what, you're very, very philosophical. You have the ability to teach college. What is your degree in?
Science.
Okay, well, the science is there. It's the Uranus. Science is coming from the Uranus, feeding directly into your ruling planet Mercury. Okay. Now, this is a teacher symbol. This is a teacher symbol. These are 4 teacher symbols. This is a teacher symbol. You got 2 planets that are in teacher symbols. You pride yourself with the Gemini. You pride yourself with being very versatile. You could teach lots of subjects, switch from here to there, and you'd be okay. True?
That's true.
Okay, that's from your Gemini. You got the Aquarius rising, okay? Which means that Saturn is the ruler of your chart. We look to the old rulers. We don't look to the modern ruler. The planet that rules Aquarius is Uranus, but when we come to the ascendant ruler, we use the traditional rulership. So Saturn is the ruler of this. Now, isn't this fascinating? Your Saturn is at 15 and a half in the 9th house in Libra. My Saturn is 14 and a half in the 9th house in Libra. So when I had my Saturn return, a couple of days after I did, you were born. Saturn went around and it hit me about 1982. Boom, and there you're born. Okay? So I'll have my second Saturn return when you're having, I'll have my third one when you're having your second one. Anyhow, this is somebody who's very dependable. In other words, some forces out there tried to stop you with your education, but you have such a fever for it, such a talent for it, such strength and persistence. This is stamina. And it's, even though it's frustrating, Saturn Mars is frustrating, but there's great stamina. Okay, so you're going to work till you find a release for those academic energies. We know you have Scorpio at the top of the chart. Okay. And where's Uranus now? Uranus is at 7.5. Uranus is at 725. Your nadir is 725. Uranus is on the nadir exactly. Now we know precisely why you're having the reading, because Uranus, when it hits an angle, blows things up, okay? In a good way. Uranus is the only planet that hits exactly. Other planets will be an inch away, a month after the event happens. This planet, it hits when it's on, and it's on you exactly precisely tonight. If the 822 birth time is right, and it's probably within 2 minutes. Okay. Now, let's talk about that because that's so major. Uranus is crossing your nadir. All right. Now, first of all, what's the nadir? The nadir is your background, your lineage, your home, your grandma, your property, your traditions, your habits, your nest. It's the base of your chart. And if it's not strong, nothing can stand. The base of the chart has to be strong. Okay, now, Uranus didn't get to this point yesterday. Uranus has been in Taurus coming on this point. Matter of fact, it's already hit this point 2 times already. It's already been over here twice. It's coming back for a 3rd time. So it's been all over you for 3 years. What has it been doing? It's been trying to question you as to whether you can do your thing in the nest that you're in now. The nest that you're in now. Now, you're married?
Yes.
And what sign is he?
Cancer.
Oh, that's right. You told me Cancer. Okay. He's got 3 planets in Cancer, and you got all this Gemini. Now, what Uranus is doing, Uranus, it's your Uranus coming out of you. And what Uranus does when it comes out, and the Uranus doesn't have trouble coming out of a double Gemini, does it? But it does have trouble coming out of a double Cancer, your husband. And it has trouble coming out of a double Capricorn, me, except I'm born Sun opposite Uranus. Okay. What's Uranus saying? It's saying, Verushka, have you been being yourself? Are you doing things that are keeping you from being yourself? Let me repeat that. Have you been doing things? I want to see a list of things you've been doing that have been keeping you from being yourself. And I don't care what anybody thinks. I want to see this list. Doesn't mean somebody's right. Might be a whole lot of people doing a lot of right for you. But you need to look at this list because what you're doing is you're stopping the show to examine your roots. And you're saying, well, my God, I can't keep growing if this root's wrapped around that brick and this root's not getting any water. You see my point? So what it is, it's a time to repot yourself, period. Now,
So,
what does that mean to you?
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you,
No,
but
that's all right.
yeah. So everything that you're saying is resonating. I've had a huge uprooting of sorts because my husband is American, and I moved over to the US last year.
I'm sorry,
And
you moved here when?
last year.
Oh, just a year ago.
Yeah. It's been just a year,
Oh,
and
Uranus.
exactly. And so things unfolded in a very unexpected way, completely unexpected, to the
That's how
point.
Uranus works.
Yes, it works very well.
It's very unexpected always.
Yeah. Well, everything about our wedding and everything just happened unexpectedly, and
That's how it works.
the coronavirus hit, and I couldn't go back to South Africa to wrap up stuff. So I still have property there that I've been battling to sell for about a year now.
Let me interrupt you for 1 second. Here's your 2 dates. First time it hit you was May the 10th of this year. What happened in May?
In May, we actually moved into a new house.
Yeah, probably on the 20th. Yeah, this planet hits exactly. The next time it hits you is coming up in December 4th. That's tomorrow.
Oh.
Okay. And that will be tonight at 4 hours after midnight. Then you'll get it again in February. Okay. Now, this is a beautiful example. This is why I want to do more and more charts for you, because you'll see living astrology. Okay. Now, what Uranus is doing, it's not out there, it's in here. It wants out. Now, the best way I have shown people that are non-astrologers to teach them astrology is the planets going by, they're like shoots of a plant. And these shoots are going to come up. Now, is it watered? Does it get any sunshine? Are you sitting on it? Are you encouraging it? That's what's going on. And it sounds to me, with that big smile on your face, that it's coming up. And even though you went with it, what are the traditional words when you go with a transit, a Uranus transit? Sudden, exciting, somewhere new. I guarantee you, you didn't move to New York and you didn't move to LA. You moved somewhere kind of unusual. And North Carolina's pretty darn unusual. It's pretty much in Dixieland. It always happens sudden, okay? These are the things that are always. You start hanging out with younger people. You didn't even know why. You don't want to be around old people. You want to be around young, bright minds. You get more elbow room. You get more sunlight. You get more ability to be yourself. See?
Mm.
Now that's what's happening. And see, the reason you're grinning is because you're doing these things correctly without any knowledge of it.
If
Tonight is your verification to have Uranus on the nadir to the minute.
Wow. Well, thank you. I mean, if I could just add something to that,
Add all you want.
the other very interesting and surprising thing is, although I've always had this really scientific mind, and that's what I studied, and that's the field that I worked in for a very long time, and had a very successful career in it. Last year I had reached a point where I just couldn't do it anymore. I felt that my soul was dying the slow and painful death, and I left corporate. And
Now, first of all, you probably were dying. Secondly, that was the best decision you ever made. And one of the worst things people can do is stay somewhere because of security, stay somewhere for insurance and all that stuff, astrologically, because you die inside. So the fact that you did it was excellent. Now, Uranus was involved. There's probably another planet involved also at that time. Go ahead.
Yes, and so although I've had the scientific side to me, what you said about the spirituality is very true. I've always been very spiritual, not religious. And in 2014, I came across a form of energy healing called vortex healing that it just felt like truth. And so I would get healings from a practitioner for 2 years. And in 2016, he said, V, you've got to go and study this stuff for yourself. And I thought, I'm this corporate bunny. Like, what am I supposed to be doing with energy healing? And so I went, and I was in South Africa at the time, and there were only 6 teachers in the world. So I would use all my vacation. It became the most important thing. I would travel the world to do these classes. And it was always this thing I've kind of done on the side for me personally. And since I moved to the US, I haven't been able to work because the pandemic's put a hold on my immigration documentation. But I started doing free energy healing sessions on my neighbors and friends, and I can't explain how that just resonates with me. I didn't got looking, well, I was hoping this purpose would dawn on me, and suddenly all these tools I had, I was able to use, which was also a big surprise, because it brings me a lot of joy as well. And that was also something that was completely unexpected.
Well, you are absolutely on the right track. I don't care if there's a virus or not. It's not going to stop you. The virus simply means that you need to learn over Zoom, or you need to learn at home for a while. Don't worry about it. Number 2, do not try to control the chaos that's around you. Okay? Gemini is a good sign. It's able to handle chaos. Tauruses can't. Scorpios can't. Capricorns can't. Geminis can do it. You're going to have chaos. Another year of it. And the chaos is because you know how you go in a restaurant and the buzzsaw's going and all that, and they're hammering and they say, pardon our dirt and our noise, but we're really trying to get you a better restaurant. You go back in 2 months and it's a beautiful new restaurant, right? That's what's going on, and that's why you have the chaos. There's no stopping it. Don't try to stop it. And the good thing about it, the positive side of Uranus, is it's fun and exciting. It's all new things. And that's beautiful for a double Gemini. So you're right on track. Secondly, you've got tremendous ability in your chart for being a healer. Let's go deeper now. I want to take you into the past life chart. I want to take you into your destiny chart. Your age right now is what?
I'm 38.
38. Okay. I'm going to go into the past life chart, but I've renamed that. I call it now the spiritual transcript chart. Let's go take a look at that. And Let me get your harmonics up here. I'm going to be showing you some harmonic charts. These are charts that are derivatives from the birth chart. And the way it is it's the 12th harmonic. And the number 12 is the Pisces number. It's the spiritual number. And you actually take the birth chart and you take the positions and multiply by 12 and put them back on the circle. And they're incredibly accurate. So this is the chart that's symbolic of this. Let's say you're in between lives and it's 1981 and you're sitting down with your spirit guide and you're about to take a life and you're reviewing all your lives. That's what this chart is. This chart, in my opinion, and I've done a lot of this chart is symbolic of how you have tried to get back to God or you didn't. Because when you look at astrology and you take away all the fluff, a chart is about going back to God or going away. Because you're going to kid yourself and think you can do it by yourself, which is the ego, or you're going to go back. Well, with your Neptune there, you're real clear. You're going to go and find out all kinds of information, but you want to go home. But you don't want to just go home. You want to find out all kinds of information. Now, the trick to your chart is going to be this. And I've seen enough people with this in their chart. And I just taught John this because John's a Gemini. And John and I talked about this a couple weeks ago. There will come a time, and I don't think it's up for you yet. It's up for John. There will come a time when you're going to have to stop trusting your mind. In other words, what does Gemini do? They accumulate facts, they accumulate data. That's what they do. Okay? In John's case, he's done it so much, he's got room full of stuff. It's starting to weigh on him, and John is now in the process of getting rid of it. And then you lean to the right brain. The right brain takes over. So you're very left brain, and you're very scientific, etc. For sure. But there will come a time, and I don't know when you're going to want to not turn off your brain, but you're going to want to reside more in your right side of your brain and trust the intuition. And your intuition's really strong because you got the Neptune opposite Sun and Moon. Okay, very good. So let's go back to the past life transcript. What is your history there? You got Pluto next to Venus. Nothing is on the angle, nothing on the angle, nothing on the angle, nothing on the angle. You got Pluto opposite Mars. This indicates that you may have been involved in wars or been a warrior or been in a town that suffered a lot of battles. Pluto Mars is common for that. You have Saturn opposite Jupiter, 6 degrees each, and moving up to Mercury here. So you've been a mental leader with your friends, a mental leader with the groups and associations that you've been with. You've been an intellectual leader. With Virgo rising, you've always been real good at getting things straight, being particular, getting the workbook straight, getting all the details straight. So I really don't see a lot of difficulty in this chart. I want to know why from this past lifetime, why did you decide to put Sun up? From this chart, you decide how your birth chart's going to be. You decide what second you're going to be born in what city. You decided ahead of time you were going to be born with a Sun and Moon opposite Neptune. Why? Well, let's see what the spiritual values are here. Jupiter, Saturn, Sun trine to Mars, Saturn trine to Neptune. Neptune is close to Chiron. So here's a real strong sense of healing and serving other people. You've always had that sense. But see, what I do is I go back and forth. I tell my students all the time, don't use a pen, use a pencil. Because you start with a pen and you're going to get locked into something and it's too complex for that. So I go back and forth between the 12th chart and the first harmonic, which is the birth chart. So we go back to the birth chart. What do we see in the birth chart? We see tremendous teaching ability. We see strong spirituality. We see strong scientific abilities. What do we see Pluto doing? Pluto's up here dealing with very strong, almost occult-like, deep exploration of truth, just digging in to find out this stuff. I don't think there's much difficulty in the past life. I don't see that. So what are you safeguarding against? So what I would ask you, in your current incarnation, what is it gives you most trouble?
Sorry, could you just repeat that,
What
Rick?
is it that gives you the most trouble in your current lifetime?
I think two things. One of them is something from my past that's given me a lot of heartache and difficulty, and that's been my family and my family life.
You
And
mean with mom and dad?
mom, dad, the entire family. I'm estranged from them all.
Sorry.
That's okay. And the other thing is, I think just feeling very lost in this lifetime, to be honest. Although even with my career, I had a certain trajectory. It never felt like it was exactly what I was supposed to be doing.
Okay.
Yeah, and just something else that might be a little interesting that I forgot to mention earlier was just with my husband's ear and shoulder and encouragement. I also signed up to do a life coaching class next week. So, that's also something where more of the healing, just because I'm trying to figure out what it is I'm supposed to be doing,
Okay.
because some
Now,
things just,
let me do a couple of things with you. Number one, I'm going to really advise you to do this. Take the word figure out of your dictionary. Okay.
okay.
At 9th house and all your planets up there want to do all this figuring. You can't figure out where to go. It's not possible because you're not driving. And as soon as you realize that he's driving or she's driving, you'll be okay. All right.
Okay.
The reason you're in a mess right now is because you have just gone down for the first time in your life and you've clipped your roots. Today, one day in your life, today, you've clipped your roots. You're rootless. That's a big deal. Now, it takes Uranus 84 years to come around to that spot. It's on that spot today. What is that spot? That spot is your connection to your family. That spot is your family's expectations of you. That spot is how you're getting upset because they keep shoving you back in the shoebox. They just want to see you as a certain type, and you're battling for your own individuality. Now, I want you to listen to me clearly, and you got it on tape, so there won't be any arguments, all right? This is really, really valid. I knew we'd get a good chart tonight. I am not telling you to do this to your family. I'm not telling you to return to your family. I'm not telling you anything. That's up to you. But what I'm telling you is this. This is the time for Verushka to declare her independence. Now, you can declare your independence by snubbing them, or you can declare it by including them, or maybe a mixture. But that's up to you. But the independence is first. That's got to happen now, or you'll die. I don't mean a physical death. You'll die spiritually and have to go through a bunch of junk to get back to it. You see what I mean? So the point becomes very clear. And this might be painful to hear. I would think that the people that are there for your liberation are the ones that are friendly towards you and care about you. And I would think that the people who are not for your liberation are worried about their own ego. Now, what do you hear?
I had a dream last night, and sorry, I just have to loop back to this. I had a dream last night where my family was in my house and I was being poisoned, and I was literally, I fell over and I was throwing up, but I was kind of like choking on, you know, my own spit up, and they were just watching me die. And I
That's very telling.
yeah, and so so in a way that explains what I hear is the dream, almost like my subconscious mind.
Okay, but I want to take you another level with this. Okay. Without delving in, if I had you in a personal reading, I would do your mom and dad's chart and I would dig in deeper to see what they're really like. But I'm going to go on a hunch. Okay.
Okay.
If you continue to approach your mom and dad with this, oh God, they're going to do it to me again, then they're going to do it to you again. Because they always have. However, if you approach them with, I got faith in you, I'm a new me, and I'm sure you can see it. And I love you, and I want you to do the best for yourself, and I'm sure you want the best for me, and just sit there and see what happens. And it'll turn around. The Holy Spirit, the reason we give stuff, you always hear this, give it up to somebody. If you can't handle, give it up. The reason you give it up is because he can solve stuff that you can't see. He solves it for mom, he solves it for dad, solves it for your brother, solves it for your dog, solves it for you. You just have, that's why you give it up, because we have a limited view down here. So what's happening to you? You are being repotted. So what you need to do now, go find a great, big, beautiful pot. Get rid of the old one. Go get brand new, super tested soil and plant yourself somewhere that you really like. Okay. Secondly, if you're in a house, for whatever reason, the house you're in now, that does not support your growth, then you've got to either change what room you're doing it in, the way the sunlight hits your house, what's going on in the house, because you've got the momentum now. You got the momentum, and the Uranus is magical. Uranus will keep assisting you as long as you keep trying. And that's why if you give your mom and dad a chance and you go back to them without this defensive posture, you're going to slap me down again, aren't you? Which is really an initial attack. When you do this, you're attacking first. You don't think you are. Then they attack, and then you say, wow, they're attacking. Instead of going back with trust and love, and they see them growing up, and they're going to say this. And I trust you. I trust you with the new me. Now, if you can't do that, then you got to try another avenue. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Well, I want to try one more thing with you. Two more things, really. I want to do like I did the 12th harmonic, and we saw in that not much, but we saw that in this lifetime, you wanted to keep your spiritual life alive. And the main thing about today is you're coming to me with Uranus exactly on the bottom angle, and that's literally cutting the roots. And that's not just cutting the roots, that's to all your lineage in the past. And the reason why is because you're ready. You had that when you needed it, and you don't need it now. Now, in the 6th harmonic, this is the destiny chart, or the do you call it? Hero's Journey, Joseph Campbell mythology, Hero's Journey. Here's your destiny chart. This usually comes into play when you're around 51. Sometimes it comes in early. All right. This is really like a light of what you would be good doing. We see that you have Pisces at the top. You have a big triangle. Chiron, Venus, teacher. Opposite Pluto, Neptune, teacher. Everything goes towards Mars, Mercury. What this means to me is you want to teach spiritual stuff. All right. Now, on the other hand, you're really into science. Okay, I'm going to put the two together now, and that's all I need to see. I don't need much time with the harmonics. All right. All those planets pointed to two planets in Taurus in the 12th house. We see that you're the teacher. We see that you're scientific. We see that you're very Jacqueline of all trades. But when it all goes to Taurus in the 12th house, you're not going to be happy teaching somebody just because you titillate their Gemini side. You're not going to be happy with people just because you give them some new facts. You're going to be obsessed, similar to John's chart I did the other night. You're going to be obsessed with planting a permanent spiritual ladder in their head. I don't know how else to say it. My chart's similar to yours. I'm just obsessed with people getting on their ladder so they can go up their ladder to wherever they're going. But with the Taurus there, that means like developing an institution. That means getting them grounded, getting them in soil where they can really continue to grow spiritually. So it's really interesting. I think what we're seeing here at the end of this is you're going to use your scientific knowledge and your spiritual oomph to try to blend the two. But I would imagine coming out of South Africa, it's so intriguing, such an interesting place. Some places are so modern, some places are so backward, just a few miles away. What does that mean to you to blend your scientific knowledge to help advance somebody into a firm type of spirituality? That's what the chart says.
So in terms of the science, when I decided to leave corporate, I had based so much growing up on science. It was my everything. It was, let's do a hypothesis about whether God exists, and that's actually how my spirituality developed. But by the time I'd left corporate, I knew that science no longer played that part in my life. It no longer drove me or fulfilled me, and spirituality was just a deeper calling for me. So to be honest, I don't feel that I need to go a scientific route to do anything. Everything that resonates with me resonates on a...
No, that's not what I'm asking you. What I'm asking you, that's a good answer, but I'm asking you something slightly different.
Okay.
Your chart shows me that you're not going to be satisfied with a scientific solution.
Okay.
No matter who you're teaching. You're going to have to blend. I think there's our answer right there. You're going to have to blend science and spirit and teach that together, because that's what the new quantum age is about.
Okay.
That's what you're about. You're about blending science and spirit. And there's plenty of people like you that are needed.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And now what I want to tell you next, don't try to figure it out. Uranus doesn't even know until it gets there. It doesn't even know. It's the planet of surprise. You're going to be taken care of. And this whole thing about Jesus telling us that he knows what we need before we even know it. It's exactly right. You're going to be taken care of. Now, the last thing I wanted to say is we're coming to the end. I wanted to look at your solar return. Okay, so here's your chart for the year, your natal chart. Here's your return chart. You're living in what city?
In Durham, Durham.
Okay. Here is your solar return as of your last birthday, just in June. Okay, here's the chart, and I'll end with this. This is a chart, they're very accurate. This tells me what you're going to be doing from June till next June. We pay attention especially on the sun. Gemini, 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 fourth house. What this means is you're getting your relationship straight. This doesn't mean your marriage per se. It can be any of your relationships, but it's two things. Getting them straight so that the new you and the new you who's come on the scene is now seen by everybody. They're not pushing you into an old cubbyhole. You see? Okay, so you want to be respected for your abilities, for your multiple abilities, for your flexible abilities, and any relationship that's around you that's trying to stuff you into a back old safety little zone, you're going to have a lot of trouble with it. They're going to have a lot of trouble with it. Okay, because you're not going to put up with it. All right, now what else do we see? Neptune's at the bottom. So at the time that you're rebuilding with a new pot, Neptune's sitting right on that place. Okay, that means you don't want your new life based in cement. You want your new life based in spirit. So I think you had an excellent reading. I think you're doing very well. And I think the biggest problem with your family is it's just habitual. I don't know their charts yet, but they're going to have to deal because you can't go back. What I mean by that is you can't go backward in your own growth. And if they want you to suppress some part of yourself, then they got problems. You know?
Yeah.
And you've got tremendous ability and you're in really good shape. Why do I say it? Not because your stars say so. I'm saying so because you've just dealt with a major transit perfectly, and it brought you right to this show on the day it was exact. Those are all symbolic of you being in the groove. And like John, I want to ask John right now. John, there ain't nothing better, is there, than being in that groove? Nothing better than being in the groove. I got a yes from him. That's good. Okay, please join us again. We'll be here every Thursday. I wanted to show you all, just to remind you again, it's been a really good reading, Varishka. I wanted to let people know also that I do readings privately. You just can go through my website to arrange readings with me. Here is this. We're going to share the screen. Here's the coming schedule. So next week, I better get a hold of Greg. Greg will be here. The Reverend Greg Keene is a medium from Lilydale. He's a fifth generation spiritualist. He's been on the program 6 times, and he will be giving mini readings to everybody who comes on the show. I'll be back on Unplugged on the 17th. We skip Christmas Eve because I'll be coming down your tree. We'll skip New Year's Eve because that's my birthday. And we'll go back on the show on January 7th. And our guest, Ksenia Moore, January 14th, will be with us from Southern Australia. And she's just remarkable. So, once again, you guys made me work real hard. So, now, let's see. I'll go here. And allow participants. Okay. So thanks to all the YouTubers that joined us. Thanks to all you unpluggers. Hope you gained something tonight. Varishka, sit up all night and just let the stuff go. You're really on track. This video will be on YouTube in a few hours. So thanks everybody for being very patient. I'll see you next week with Greg when he does all the work. Walk in between the droplets now. Put the mask on. Walk in between the droplets. Good night, everybody.